Alright, so I got my oil tank back on here, the one we just painted, cleaned out and washed and wet sanded and put some clear on. Got my 3 rubber mounting tabs on there. Ran my new gear case vent line, ran my new oil pump feed line that goes down to the back of the oil pump there. I don't know if you can see that, it's right there. Ran my new return line, which is right down here where my finger is. That's the return line. So I'm ready to start bleeding this system, priming really. Pull my cover off of here. So I can spin the motor over by hand or engine. Got all my lines hooked up there. So I'm gonna, this is the end of the pinion shaft here. Oil flows through or actually flows through here, down through the cam cover, through the bushing, into this hole right here. Now there's a 90 thousandths restrictor in the end of this. On earlier Sportsters, like earlier Ironheads, there was no restrictor. So an upgrade on those is to usually just take a pilot, like a carburetor pilot jet, and drill it out to 90 thousandths and press it in the end of the pinion shaft there. But we don't need to worry about that because they fixed that shit in probably late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. Can't remember exactly, but earlier ones, they had no restrictor. So that's a, put a restrictor in there, builds up pressure in the oil system. So all we're going to do here, let me move this over so you can see it maybe. Probably not. Let me move this crank a little bit. Move it right there. So all I'm going to do is take my trusty dusty oil can right here, put it into the end of the crank, and start pumping. So I see some oil coming up through the rods there, and that's good for that. So you know the crank's primed now. That's a shot of the end of the crank there. Pinion shaft, that's where oil goes through that hole right there in the center. Let me put some oil in the tank here. Alright, so I'm just using Lucas break-in oil 2050. Since I'm putting new rings in here and I've totally flushed out every bit of the oil that was in here. Out of the engine and out of the oil pump, oil tank, everywhere. Now I don't have the feed line that goes to past the oil pump on there, so it should start dripping oil out of the oil pump here very shortly. I'm just putting 2 quarts in there. This thing only holds 3 quarts, but not even 3 really. It's like 2.5 is what I usually end up putting in there. And we got oil coming out of the oil pump now. Let me see if I can get you down there so you can see that. That's coming out of that's coming out, draining out of the crankshaft there. So I don't know if you can see this or not. This line right here that I got loose, that's the line that feeds up to the oil filter housing. I don't have any oil coming through there yet. So. Not yet. So anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to spin this around until I get some oil coming out of here. All right. Let's keep spinning it. Sometimes if you let this thing sit like overnight or for an hour or so, it'll just gravity feed down through the pump. This is a very important step here. You don't want to just dump oil in there and assume that the engine's going to pump oil through everything, because it takes a while to get, if it's got an air bubble in the pump or in the line, right where the line goes in there, where it cavitates, you know, you could start it up and not have oil pressure for over a minute, maybe two. So you want oil pressure almost immediately. That's why we're going to prime it all the way up the oil filter and make sure we got oil coming through the cavity there to the filter housing, or through this line right here to the filter housing. And this is, when you tighten this up, this is just an AN fitting. It's a 5/8. You tighten it with a 5/8 wrench. I still don't have anything coming through there, so let me keep pumping on this thing. Alright, finally got some oil coming out of there. This little spot right there. I feel down at the front of it, and there's oil coming out of the fitting on the front of the pump there. So right here. Basically behind this line right here where you can't see it. Right there. What I had to do, and sometimes you have to do this, you block off your gear case vent line, which is right there. All right, this line's really long right now. I just blocked it off so no air blows out. And put my air nozzle down in the tank here just to pressurize it so slightly. You know, just maybe not even probably 10 pounds of air, because of course I'm holding it in with a rag, so most of it's leaking out, but it pressurizes enough for me to start getting some oil through there. So now I'm just going to hook the line up, which is right there, and continue turning it till I get oil coming up through the oil filter housing. All right. So your oil is going to come on the outside right here. It's going to come through here, go through the outside the filter, and then it goes through the motor through the inside where this adapter is. Your oil check valve's right behind this adapter here. Remember we did that in another video there. So let's go ahead and spin this thing over and see if we can get some oil up to the filter housing now that we got it through the pump. Should go right to it without a lot of hassle, because we've already bled the pump. Not yet. Keep spinning it. Not yet. All right, let's try that now. See if we can get some oil out of there. I'll let it sit for a little while and ran some air through it, pressurized it a little bit. I think we got some oil coming out of there. Sounds like it anyway. All right, we put our filter back on here. We should be able to button this thing up here shortly, or start buttoning it up. Guess my camera's a little cocked there. Must have knocked it around a little bit. And then I'll fill the oil filter up here. I'm using a Lucas 2050 break-in oil to help seat the rings in. I don't want to get into an oil discussion. That's like some kind of, I really don't know what that is. People want to, you can't use this kind of oil and you can't use that kind of oil because they're freaking oil experts from reading stuff on the internet. And you know what, that's fine. I'll use what kind of damn oil I want to use. You use whatever kind of oil you want to use. Doesn't really matter to me. If it makes you feel superior because you use Harley Davidson Sen 3 or whatever, that's fine. Let me tell you something about Harley Davidson Sen 3. I did a customer brings in a bagger, probably 92, 93 bagger, 90, somewhere early 90s, FLHTC. And it's got engine noise. And he's only had it for like, it was less than 2 years. And, you know, pull the oil filter off, and if you have engine noise, if you pull the oil filter and look right around here, right around the edge of the filter, if you got little square flakes of metal in there, like little square shavings, that's usually rod bearing or main bearing rollers. 99% of the times, that's what it is. So I pull this guy's bike apart, and pinion bearings are toasted on the end of the flywheel on the right side. I mean, they're just gone, completely flat. So, this bike isn't really that old, doesn't have a shitload of miles on it. And call up Harley about warranty, because they used to still do pretty good warranty system. This is back before extended warranty really took hold. And instead of approving it, the guy wanted the guy's service history. So pulled everything we had, and the customer supplied his own oil. He always ran Mobil 1 in there, which it says completely on the work order, customer supplied Mobil 1 2050 or whatever it was. So they denied the warranty claim because he's running Mobil 1. So guy, I call customer service in Milwaukee, and talking to the guy on the phone there, and he's like, well, we're not going to cover it. We're not going to cover parts or labor because he's running Mobil 1 in there instead of Harley oil. And it wasn't just that he was running Mobil 1. He said he's running synthetic oil in there. You can't run synthetic oil in Harleys because it makes the bearings skid. Everybody knows that. It's too slippery. That was his excuse. So, guy wanted to know what to do. I told him I tell everybody that Harley denies claims on. Call customer service. They got a 1-800 number, and raise fucking hell. You're never going to buy another one of their products. You're going to tell everybody never buy one of their products, never go to their dealers, never wear their t-shirts, just blah, 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 blah. So that always hits me. And then they switch to Send 3, which suddenly becomes fashionable to run in all three holes. Well, if you notice here lately, they came out with the heavyweight transmission gear oil. Like heavy, like it. 75, 85, 240, or whatever the hell it is. Meaning the only reason they're doing that is they started having some kind of transmission problem across the line from using Send 3, which their transmissions are pretty damn bulletproof, always have been. But ever since they started using this Send 3, I've heard people have transmission problems. They're wearing dogs off the damn gears, wearing synchros out, whatever. And for big twins, I always used a Redline heavy shockproof oil because it does make them shift easier and it makes them quieter. A long time ago, not before 90, I can't remember when they came out with these close ratio gear sets or close contact gears. 92, 93 maybe, I want to say 92. Every Harley transmission made a wicked whining noise in third gear, only in third gear. So what we did to begin with, we switched up to a Bel-Ray product, which quieted the transmission down, and then switched to Redline heavy shockproof, which is 75 240 or 85 240, whatever it is. And as a side product, it made them actually shift better, smoother, easier, shift better across the range. But that's enough about oil. I don't even want to argue about that. People run all kinds of crap in there, and I've used Kendall racing oil to begin with. A long time ago, I always ran Kendall 50 weight. That's really old stuff. I've run Castrol 2050. I've run Harley oil, of course. Ames oil, drag specialty oil. red line, ester-based synthetic red line. I've run Motul in the Sportster primary. I think I've run Castrol MTL in the primary on Sportsters. And Sport Trans fluid, and just, you know, I think this time I'm probably going to use some 7590 limited slip gear oil. I've even run ATF in them with varying degrees of success with ATF. And 50 weight, I run straight 50 weight in a lot of stuff because, you know, in the summer months it helps. And even Harley recommends that if the temperature is over 80 degrees, run 50 weight. I think their range is run 25 or 20 W50 up to about 100 degrees. And anything over 80 degrees Fahrenheit on a fairly constant basis, use 50 weight. That's straight out of the damn manual, your owner's manual. Hell, they even recommend running 10W40 in certain circumstances if the temperature never goes above 32 degrees or whatever it is, or 40 something. It's a really low temperature, which, you know, makes sense. But you know, you don't want to run 10W40 in there for very long, unless you live someplace where you're riding all year long and it's stupid cold out. While we're on the subject of oil, if you take this just as an experiment, if you go outside and your garage is 50 degrees, take some 50 weight and try and pour it into a jar and see how slow it pours when it's 20 or 30 degrees outside. Take some 20/50 and pour it, and you'll see the pour points a lot easier than the 50 weight. And so on, 10W40 and everything else. Also, too, seems like ever since they came out with fuel injection, guys just hop on damn bikes and never let them warm up. Usually because the fucking salesman told them, you know what, these things are great for fuel injection, man. You just hop on them and go. You don't even have to let them warm up. I've had to tell more salesmen not to tell people that bullshit. Because, you know, you start your bike up and you don't let it warm up and you tear off down the road. And, you know, if it's 30 degrees out, even you're on 20/50, you're not getting oil everywhere immediately. And your damn cylinders, head gaskets aren't even seated yet. The way these cylinders work, when they get warm, they expand upwards as well as outwards to help clamp load on head gaskets and base gaskets. Not only that, but not just the oil, but you're running on the damn enricher circuit. So you're basically dumping gas down your cylinders until it's warmed up. So you're washing the damn rings out. Let's put this oil filter on there. That's enough of me ranting about oil filters. That's a Napa Gold oil filter. But that's it for our oil system there. Bleeding the pump. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I actually screwed up on oil line routing. That's one of the reasons you bleed the pump. If you screw up, you don't have oil getting to the pump, it ain't ever going to get there. So I actually inverted the damn lines for the return and the feed line. And as soon as you hook the feed line up and put oil in there, you should get oil almost immediately flowing past the damn gears in the pump. And I pulled the line off, fully expecting oil to go everywhere, and no oil came out. And I was like, shit, I done read the damn oil lines wrong. And I did. I admit it. I have no excuses for that other than I screwed up. I can't blame it on the cataracts. I can't, it's been how many years since I've had an oil pump off a Sportster? Probably 15 years. Well, longer than 10 years. Anyway, so over 10 years. And I didn't use the manual to figure it out. I do have a manual, but, you don't have oil, you don't have oil. I have had stuff where I had one on a big twin where a guy was driving down 95 and kept looked down and his oil light was on. So he pulls over. As soon as he stops, his oil light goes off. So gets back on the bike, rides down the road, makes it a couple of miles, and then his oil light comes back on. It was on the Road King, I think. Yeah, it was a Road King. And guy calls up from 10 miles away or something like that and wants us to come get him because his bike doesn't have oil pressure. So he explains what's going on. He doesn't, and my oil pressure's intermittent, and he's from, he was from New Jersey or New York or somewhere, Massachusetts, somewhere up there, and he was driving to Myrtle Beach, I think. Myrtle Beach or Daytona. One of them things. It was one of them bike things. So pull it in the shop, and it has plenty of oil pressure. I'm like, man, this guy's, I don't know. I check his oil pressure sending unit, and it's fine. Tested it. Tested his oil pressure. His oil pressure's fine. Stuck a gauge on it. It's reading correct oil pressure. Took it out for a test ride. Made it 3 or 4 miles. Didn't do nothing. Got on an open stretch of highway where I could open it up some and hit about 65, 70 miles an hour, and the oil light came on. It's like, shit. Slowed there, let off the gas, pulled over, stopped, oil light goes off, rode back to the shop. Of course, I checked the oil before all of this. Rode back to the shop and pulled the oil pan off and noticed that somebody had replaced the oil pan gasket because the oil pan's up under the transmission, and they put silicone all over the damn oil pan gasket for whatever reason, I don't know. So, pulled the oil pan off. It's easier if you take the rear tire off to get the oil pan out. Pulled the oil pan off, pulled the baffle out of it, and down in the bottom there's a little glob of silicone, probably ½ inch long, probably ½ inch wide, sitting right near the feed line where the oil pump feed line runs out to go to the oil pump in the case there. This was on a twin cam. So I asked the guy, did you replace the oil pan gasket? He's like, nah, they did that last year at some dealer wherever, somewhere up there in New Jersey or wherever he was from. The dealer did it. That's what he said anyway. So what it was doing, it was sucking that glob of silicone up into the damn feed line. And then you let off the gas, and it wasn't big enough to go in the hole and get stuck. It was just big enough to block it off slightly. So it didn't actually get stuck in the hole that's drilled there. And, cleaned it up, cleaned all the silicone off of it, put a fresh gasket on it. And at this point, they'd already switched to the steel embossed gasket which is a lot nicer gasket than the old paper one. Put them on there and got him on the road, and down the road he went. Then got a letter from him thanking him for later on, because I actually did it under warranty. Or no, I didn't do it under warranty. I didn't charge him a whole lot of money to do it, because he's on the road, man. He's just trying to get to his destination, and another dealer screwed up, so I'm pretty much covering that other covering Harley and covering the other dealer. But that's it for the tails. I screwed up doing the oil lines, and I got oil pressure now going everywhere. I'm ready to put the cam cover back, put the cams in, put the cam cover back on, and I should have my new base gaskets and head gaskets and all that here within the next week, or probably middle of next week, which would be fine. I have eye surgery tomorrow morning at 6:30 for these cataracts, and that should be good. Moral of the story is, if you don't have oil pressure to begin with, go back and check everything. It should usually, they're fairly easy to bleed or prime. Sometimes you get one that it's got air bubble cavitated somewhere, and you have to pressurize the oil tank, put a little juice to it. But it was just me screwing up with damn oil lines. So I'm human. You know, I don't know everything. I don't remember everything there is to know about everything. I don't claim that. I just know that I've been doing this a really long time, and if something ain't right, it ain't right. So that being said, if you like my content, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that. I appreciate it. I'm just doing this to keep busy. I'm retired, I don't know how long now, medically retired, disabled, whatever you want to call it, for the past probably, I don't even know, 7 or 8 years now. Anyway, thanks. You guys have a great day. Take care.